Folks, welcome back. Welcome back. It's Tuesday again. We back on the block again, creative financing with JB. Another opportunity. We're going to get it right. We're going to make this thing happen today. You know, we're in the finance game today, folks, because I got Mr. Jameson here, and we're going to start talking about investing, a little money management, how we get that to flow, all that good stuff, because it's important as we talk about how do we invest, what are we investing in, how do we know if it's a good return on our money, and start having those conversations, because folks, the reality of the situation is that investing is the key to generational wealth. And however you look at it, however you put it there, it gives you the opportunity to understand what we're doing out here, how we're doing it, and what type of risks are we making. Today, we're going to talk with Mr. Jameson Thornton, owner of Today and Tomorrow Financial. He's going to give a little background about himself. He's going to tell you about this financial market. He's going to talk about that investing and why we do it. Do we do it just for the risk of it and hopefully we get a return? But how do we do it knowledgeably and make it make sense? How do we do it and know that we're going to able to recover from some returns and stuff? Because we see a lot of stuff happening, especially today. We got the war going on. With the war, that changes a lot of things. What they talk about, we're spending $1 billion a day for that war. But we're going to go ahead and bring it on, and we're going to reel it in. We're going to make some sense of this thing, and let Mr. Thornton introduce himself right quick and tell you a little bit about himself.
Hey, what's going on, Johnny? Thanks for having me on here, everything like that. Short and sweet, grew up in Danville, Virginia, a little country town, although we just got some major investment in there, and a lot of people are taking advantage of it, so that's good for my hometown. After graduating high school, graduated early, ended up going into the Air Force. And in the Air Force is actually where I learned how to invest money and how to make money. I took it a step further and started really understanding how money works. And once I understood how money works, then I understood how to make it work for me. I would like to say that I'm self-taught, but I'm not 100% self-taught. Funny story real quick. When I joined the Air Force, I joined and I got a bonus. And one of my good friends, one of my best friends, is like an older brother to me. He was much higher ranking, used to bring me over to his house, everything like that. And I was like bragging on him. I'm about to get this bonus. I'm about to get this bonus. Telling him all this ridiculous stuff that I was going to get. I thought I was going to be the Ric Flair of the dorms. I was going to get a meet from Bernice because I was stationed in Las Vegas. I was going to get a car. All the ladies was going to be around me. I was like, 2 times 2 claps, type stuff.
Right.
Age, just all this frivolous stuff. And when I got paid, my bonus, he used to give me rides from work to the dorms, and I was like, yo, I got paid. And he, hey, come to the house real quick. And from there, he started explaining to me what he was doing. That's the first time I ever heard about Janus, which is a fund that you at one point in time could invest in. I've never known a person not make money off of Janus. It's an amazing fund. Unfortunately, it's not available anymore. Those things, they make so much money, they close it off. But he was involved in it. He told me a little bit about stocks, didn't really get into it. And from there, it kind of being in the break, listening to other people, not like me, speaking over me, talking about their investments and this and that. So I took all that information. And you got to remember, this is when internet wasn't the thing that it is today. You couldn't bring out your phone and Google something, so I had to go to the library, had to go buy some books, had to read the newspaper, all this stuff that, I had to put the work in and the research, and I started applying it. Things started working out. I was blessed to be in Las Vegas at the time. It was the fastest growing city in America. So this was long before the housing crisis, and you could buy a house with the worst credit ever. I know people that bought a
Mhm.
house at that time for four. Those same people with a 400 credit score, those same people ended up getting, foreclosing on that house. However, I was in a good position, started getting into real estate, grew from there, made some money off of that. Not necessarily flipping houses, but ended up selling a lot of my homes because they were brand new. And I had a model that still applies today when you're buying a house like that. If you want to just make it off of profit. With that, I moved into other things, started telling people, in my community about it, everything like that. People really didn't understand me. Finally, a few people towards the end of my career, they told me, "Can you do it for me?" And I can't do it for you because I'm not licensed. Finally, they got me to a point where I wanted to get licensed. I got licensed, and I opened up the Today and Tomorrow originally for education purposes. My goal was just to educate people educate people on how to invest, how to build wealth, all that type of stuff. From
Mm.
there, it became a type of thing where people saying, "Hey, can you do this for me?" I talked to this guy, I talked to this woman, I talked to this person. They're not telling me what you're telling me, and they're not telling me the stuff that makes sense. What they're trying to do is just make money off of me. And so that's when
Mhm.
I really progressed with my licenses, got my licenses, started helping out clients, and from there, it's just been, building, 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 growing, 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 and taking care of people, and, not necessarily worrying about my future or my children's future. Right now, I'm more or less focused on my grandchildren's future. Um, and at the same time, the goal of Today and Tomorrow is always first and foremost education, education, education. I have no problem if a person takes the education that I give them, the information that I give them, and work with someone else. Because if you have it, then two or three more people have it. If two or three more people have it,
Right.
two or three more people from each of those people have it. So my goal, our goal, is to basically educate an entire community or as many communities that are underserved with the tools to grow wealth. Yeah, and that's me.
Mhm. So tell us, you started on this journey here, and welcome, Rob Dickerson. You started on this journey here of investing. Um, what was some of your thought product process before you start to get all this education and really understanding how it was? Was it you were going to be a millionaire overnight, or give me some thoughts behind that?
Yeah, man. I joined the military when I was 17 years old, so I had a 17-year-old mentality. You got to remember, cash
That's
money
two of
was
us.
big. We was talking about bling bling. I wanted to be like Baby, had the
Yeah.
diamond, gold grill, platinum, everything like that. So everything was kind of based off that, off of what I had seen. Growing up, there was a clothing store, right, called Main
Uh-huh.
Source. Shout out to Amir and Abdul out of Danville, Virginia, two good brothers. And that was the first time I saw black business, but it was
Mm.
our business. They were selling Sean John, Dada, all those types of clothes, right, in there. And they had the
Mhm.
mixtapes. You had to get the first time I heard DJ Clue was from a Main Source mixtape that they had. So uh, from there, that was the first time that I saw it. So when I started investing, that was what I thought that I was going to be involved in. I got involved with a friend of mine at the time. He basically was opening up a clothing store in Durham, North Carolina. Um, and with that in mind, I thought that, well, he came to me and said, "Hey, I got an opportunity for you to open up this store with me." So that's what I went with. I gave him the money, the seed money for the store, um, and it completely flopped. It completely
Mm.
flopped. Um,
Mm.
it wasn't
Wow.
the fact that it wasn't a good idea. It was the fact that I was in the Air Force, living in Las Vegas. He was boots on the ground, and he might not have been ready to manage something like that. You know,
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
it did was that was the most valuable lesson that I've ever learned in business.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
okay to invest in somebody else's dream, but you have to understand the market, you have to understand the product, and you have to understand the clientele. You have to
Mm.
understand that being business.
Right, right,
So
right.
that was where it went. From there, I started researching laundromats. Then I started researching vending machines. And then that's when I got into real estate. Real
Mhm,
estate to me was the place that I really blasted off. I
mhm,
mentioned earlier about a model that I had. And I'm at the time, if anybody's been to Vegas, if you go to North Las
mhm,
Vegas, and you drive down a road named Cheyenne, if you
mhm,
go the next road over, you'll see all these communities, all these houses, all these stores. When I was there, all that was desert. All of that was
mm,
desert. Sutherland was the
mhm,
desert. All of that was desert. So when I would go out driving, trying to make my way to the strip or to UNLV, because that's where the party was, right?
mhm, mhm, mhm,
I would see these signs for neighborhoods, future neighborhood this starting in the low 100s, starting in the low 200s. The closer I got to the mountain where Centennial is, it was starting in the low 300, low 400s, right? And what
mhm,
I did the first time was I went to this neighborhood that they were building right across the street from Lake Mead and Martin Luther King, right? And it was starting in the low 100s, and I signed up to buy a house. I entered a contract to buy a house. Now these people, they didn't want you to put any money down or nothing. All you had to do was fill out an agreement, and 3 months out, you start on your mortgage loan, everything like that. It was a sweet deal.
mhm, mhm,
So what I did was I signed the contract, did the mortgage. As soon as the house was built, I already sold that house. By that time, when I sold the house, the homes were worth 250,000 and above.
mhm, mhm,
How much they were selling for? So right there, I signed the contract, locked myself into 118.5 for that home. I sold it for X amount.
mhm,
I took that profit, never lived in the house, still lived in my apartment, everything like that. Took that profit and I bought two more houses, same vein. Found a neighborhood, they hadn't even broke ground, they just put the sign in. And that business
mm.
model for real estate has worked throughout. Now, obviously, the prices for those, it ain't no low 100s anymore, you know.
No, no,
But
no, it's gone.
if you can find a place that's wooded out, they haven't cleared it or anything, they just have a sign, future residents, whoever is building these homes, blah 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 blah. You call that number, you tell them you want to buy, you enter into the buying contract, everything like that. You start on the construction loan because they require that now. You put your money down. If you sold that house by the time they finished it, you've probably gained at least 80% of value in that home in equity.
Mhm,
So as soon as you do that, you're off to the races, you
mhm,
know?
mhm.
So
Absolutely.
that's essentially what I did with that. Now, from there, later on in my career, I got into stocks, all that type of stuff. We had our version of a 401k in the military. I learned how to do my 401k in the military. And it's so crazy because everything built to where I am now in terms of today and tomorrow. I learned how to invest.
Mhm,
I got into crypto. From crypto, I maximize my stock markets. I maximize my 401k. I understand my Roth. I understand my traditional IRA. I understand my broker account. Um, and then I also understand my other vehicles like my IULs, my annuities, stuff like that I have personally, and my children have. That at that point in time, it put me in a position to understand how money works, where it works, and how to build this. And that's the type of stuff that I do for myself. I never put a client in anything that I either don't know extensively about or I haven't done myself. That way I can speak
mm,
more intelligently on how they should do this or what they shouldn't do with this product. Because I don't think there's any bad products except a savings account. If
mhm.
all you got is a
Right.
savings account, please contact me. Please, you know.
Mm-hmm. And somebody asked a question here, Jameson, is what is your philosophy on debt management and emergency savings in today's economy?
So it has nothing to do with today's economy. Get that out of your head. That's number one. Okay, because the economy could get better tomorrow, and if you're not prepared, you're still going to be broke. That's just a
Mm-hmm.
reality. Okay, everybody should have a emergency fund. A lot of experts they'll say you need 6 months of emergency fund. I would say have enough to pay for your car breaking down. Let's put this in real life terms. Have enough for your transmission on your car breaking down, or having to get a new car because it's beyond repair, along with when I say getting a new car, I mean a down payment. Okay, along with if you're a homeowner, an AC unit going down because that's pretty much the most expensive thing that's going to go down. Okay, as well as if enough to buy food for 2 months, gas for 2 months, and your children's activities for 2 months. Break it down that way. Look at your budget and see how much all that costs. That's what your emergency fund should result in. Because most of us, if we say we lose our job or something like that, okay, we're going to find a job within 2 months. If we have to, we'll find two jobs. Okay. With
Mm-hmm.
that amount is going to equate your mortgage, your rent, your car note, all that type of stuff. Okay. There's no such thing as too much in an emergency savings account. Okay. I can tell you that right now. So that's how I look at that in terms
Mm-hmm.
of an emergency.
What's your opinion on options and IPOs?
All right. What was the other part of the question?
The other part of that other question was the management part. What's your
The
philosophy on
management is
debt management?
debt management. There's a number of ways for one, rule of thumb, never create debt that you can't afford. Okay. One thing that's out there right now is these affirm accounts. I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
don't do it. It sounds good, but if you can't afford that 200, $150 payment for the next 2 months or 12 months, 24 months, don't do it. But for the sake of reality, because that's the world I live in, debt management, make sure you pay at least the very minimum of your debt. The minimum payment is okay because it shows that you're on time. It shows that you're not delinquent. It will not affect your credit score as much. Once you
Mm-hmm.
get extra money, if you get extra money, what I would say is go ahead on and put it towards the lowest amount. Whatever you owe, that's the lowest amount, put it towards that. Once you pay that off, take that same minimum payment and apply it to the next
Mm-hmm.
lowest. Apply it to the next lowest. Attempt my challenge to everyone on this call is attempt not to make any new debt for the next 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, then you'll see how much you can actually pay off. I guarantee you
Mm-hmm.
in the next if you take what I just said with the lowest amount, right? If you take the
Mm-hmm.
lowest amount, pay that off, take that payment, pay off the next one. You'll have 2 to 3 bills paid off, and you'll be steamrolling into the next larger bill to pay that off. And you'll literally see it takes about 3 months for your credit score to go up once you pay something off. So you'll see in real time your credit score going up, going up, going up. So if you want to buy a new car, if you want to buy a home, if you want to buy a rental property, if you just want to have a good credit score, you will see it. If you have a home and you want to do a HELOC, you got to remember you have to have a 720 minimum for a HELOC. And the less debt to income ratio you have, the better off you'll be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's my philosophy on debt management.
So,
Go
so
ahead, Sean.
somebody asked the other question, and I think that was Robert. he was asking about what's your opinion on options and IPOs?
You just got to find the right one. That's like the sexy thing right now, options and IPOs. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people are talking about that. A lot of people are saying that as long as you have the education, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what an IPO actually is, you know, and what the
Mm-hmm.
future's really talking about, do your research in terms of, like, right now they're talking about SpaceX. They've been talking about SpaceX for 2 years now. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
question was, don't just look at SpaceX as an IPO, right? Because SpaceX isn't a publicly traded company just yet.
Mm-hmm.
Look at its competitors also. What technology is out there that's going to replace it?
Mm-hmm.
It's like this. You can buy stock in Tesla, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't like Tesla. If you would have bought stock in, say, Rivian, Polestar, how much money would you have made off of those when everything happened early last year?
Mm-hmm.
Because their
Mm-hmm.
stock prices went up because everybody was buying them instead. You weren't seeing Rivians on the road for before 2025.
Right.
So
Before.
understand, you don't necessarily have to go with the big boy, but you can go with the next big person, big company, and make just as much, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to IPOs and options, again, it's the same vein. Understand what your commodity is that you're actually investing in. Understand the industry. If you don't,
Mm-hmm.
you're really not going to understand what's happening in your living will and pleasure of what that stock or that option is going to be. You're just going throwing in. It's like a March Madness bracket. You don't know. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
UVA is supposed to be in the Sweet 16 right now. Guess what, folks? My bracket is busted. I
Yep.
mean, that's
It,
true.
it can
I
happen.
didn't do my research. I didn't do
It
my
can
research.
happen. And Tiana, Ms. Wiggins said, is it a good time to buy these oils and AI stocks? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so these are strictly Jameson Thornton's opinions. I want you to
Absolutely.
know. So if anybody invests in anything, I just want you to know, don't be emailing me, texting me, or anything like that. Like, I can't believe you. What I would say with oil, yes, it is a good time to buy oil stocks. It's always a good time to buy oil stocks. Even when it's low, it's going to go back up. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we're not a energy green energy world. Period. Even with a G20 or anything like that, we love our pollution forming fossil fuels to run the world. So yes, it is a good time to buy oil. It's a good time to invest in American oil companies, and this is where business comes in. I don't necessarily agree. I'm not going to talk in terms of morality or anything like that. I'm only going to be speaking about finance, which doesn't have any feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good time to invest in American companies that are in the oil industry because of everything that happened in what was it, Venezuela?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and if you do your research, I'm not going to tell you which company to research, but there's a certain American company that is the only American company that was already in place in Venezuela prior to uh, their president being disposed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
AI, my personal opinion, there's a bubble for AI. I think AI is going to be like the .com bubble. It's so saturated right now that people really don't know what it can do. And
Mm-hmm.
when you have like that, then eventually it's going to fizzle out. It's going to stabilize. Now my question is right now, you can probably a lot of people that were initially involved right now they've made a lot of money. But what happens when it fizzles out and it levels out and it stabilizes? Just like the
Mm-hmm.
.com, everybody was all on this .com, this website, that website, this website. Everybody was a web designer, this, that, and the third. And then the industry leveled out. A lot of people went broke. A lot of people lost a lot of money, not just through their regular jobs, but also through stocks and everything like that, because the market stabilized. Right now, AI is going to stabilize.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm investing, and I'm not going to tell you what my strategy is, but if I'm investing, I'm actually investing for a short. And
Hmm.
if you're not sure what a short is, I would strongly suggest we research it, we look at it, and then definitely get my information. We can talk more about it. But I would probably
Hmm.
Jackson Thornton would
Hmm.
probably, not just to cover my losses when they come, but for profit, would be also investing long term in a short on AI.
That's good to know. And folks, if you want to reach out to Mr. Thornton, his number is 301 523 9127, or drop him an email at Jameson at todayandtomorrow.com. Have that conversation. He's giving you his opinion of this stuff. He's not telling you that you have to follow his methods, but something that you can utilize and just have a conversation about. Because you can see the thought process behind it while we have this. And somebody asked another question before I get to Miss Tierra's other question here. Is I've been in the IPO. It's been 2 years in December, but is this but is this could this be a long drag out process? I guess he's asking, is can this be a long drag out
All IPOs
process?
are long. All IPOs are long game. All IPOs are long game. If you get into IPOs or option, this is why I say people need to really understand what they're investing in and researching. If you went in just for a quick, this isn't Saturday night, and on spring break at Galveston Beach or Daytona Beach back in the day. Okay, we trying to get married here. We going to church with you. Okay,
Right,
you
right, right,
know,
right,
we
right,
we can let her sit down with grandma so grandma can give that piece. Remember that when you're doing IPOs and options, you have to understand it's a long process. It's not just right now. You know, they haven't even. You got to remember the thing about an IPO and an option is you're buying into something before it goes public,
right. Hmm.
so they could push back when it goes
When
public.
it's so public, yep.
And if it is public, you're buying an option for something. You're buying an option for something that could go public, even more public. It's not 100% public yet.
Yeah,
It's in the
right.
process of going that way. So it's not going to be, they might say 6 months, but they reserve the right to say, okay, we got some new technology, some new stuff we're working on. It might be 2 years now. You know, I've been an investor in this crypto called Pi, right? Pretty
Hmm.
awesome. It's based off community, all that type of stuff. Well over 6 years now. It has not been released to go public on Coinbase, Crypto.com, Binance, any of those. It's not there yet. So now there was a little scare or a whole bunch of hype last year because it was supposedly going to release at $62 a pie, right? Um, it didn't release because the U.S. markets, all that type of stuff. We're not going to get into the political side of it, but it didn't release into public consumption like that. So it's still something that's being invested in. I'm not. It's more about time, not necessarily money, but all those people that were counting on their pie being worth $62 a pie and wanted to sell, guess what? You had to wait. It's the same thing when it
Hmm.
comes to IPOs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Somebody asked this
So
question and
go
they're
ahead and put a
going,
ring on it.
yeah. Hyperscalers and military supplier stocks. What's your thoughts on that?
Military supplier stock. I won't really get into. I won't. I won't get into hyperscalers for a simple fact. I don't know the entire audience that we have, and I don't want to. I would love to teach people about that. So I don't want to go over people. But when it comes to military stock, supplier stock, what I would say is this: anytime you have DoD or Department of War, whatever we're calling it today, um, as long as that supplier has international contracts, it's a yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Look at and research where they are, what contracts they are serving. You want
Hmm.
them to have Australia. You want have UK, you want them to have France, you want them to have Asian countries, you want them to have African countries' interests, all that type of stuff. As long as they have that, oh, I'm all for it. I'm game. I'm all day,
Hmm.
every day. But if you're sitting here listening to local, Omar Epps and Juice, the local DJ, that's cool and fine and dandy. He might be the greatest thing in the world, but what happens when he gets locked up? You'll never hear his mixtape again.
Right, right. Somebody else asked a question, Jameson. What is the biggest mistake you see people making with their finances right now, and in this investment world?
Miseducation.
Mm,
They don't know where they're putting their money. You know, if so, we want to invest, but we don't understand where we're putting our money. If you're a smoker, a pack of cigarettes costs, let's say, on the light end, depending on where you are in the country, $15 a pack.
mm-hmm,
You buy a pack a day. How much money is that? And then you say at the then you say at the end of the month, I'm struggling. Well, what meals could you have gotten if you would have cut that cigarette habit in half?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Just saying. We don't know
Yeah.
where our money is going. And I like to
Mm-hmm,
speak in real life scenarios. That's the biggest mistake. The next
mm-hmm,
mistake is people going off of what sounds cool, everybody else is talking about. If everybody's talking about it, the money's probably been made from it.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And
So if you
that's
don't
true.
understand
Makes
your
sense.
money, if you don't, yeah, if you don't understand, I mean, there's certain things that's always going to be here. Real estate. If you can't afford a house, a rental property, buy some land.
Mm-hmm,
God ain't making no more of that.
mm-hmm. Ain't
You
that the
know,
truth? They've been
buy
saying that
some
for
land.
years. For somebody else came up
Yeah,
with a
at the end
question.
of the day,
I think we had another question.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Research is a must and stay on top of the market watch. Could you post his information, Blaze, like to reach out? Information's going around the bottom of the screen. Thanks for that, Rob. But it's 301 His email is Jameson at todayandtomorrow.com. Drop him a message, see if, when he's available for it. So y'all can have a good conversation. We passing on some vital information on investing here that can help you out. Somebody else asked a question: how do you help clients manage their emotions during this volatile market right now? We in a crunch time now. How do we give them the knowledge so they know how to manage their emotions and just don't pull out so quick?
I'm sorry.
Hello? For right there.
I think
And
what you're asking me is what do I do in a volatile market to prevent? Is that what you're asking me?
yeah, yeah. So how do you get people to manage their emotions in this type of market right now? Because if they see it getting bad, they
Oh,
want to pull out, you know.
for one, I don't manage adults. I don't
Mhm,
control adults. That's number one. Um, Again, we're making Saturday night references. We're pulling out, but the thing about it is, I just to them where I see things. When a lot of my clients that I deal with, I bake security into the products that we're using. Okay. Um,
mhm,
so the way I break it down is you not the red, then the red. If you
mhm,
have a large number of people that are in red around you, then and you're not in the red, you're breaking even, you're doing a lot better than other people. But in terms of
mhm,
emotions, you know yourself. You know what your
mhm,
threshold is. The goal is to make money, I believe in long term, but also I want you to live your life. So you should have something baked in to where your investments are covered, but also your lifestyle doesn't necessarily change that much. I want you to complain about the price of gas,
Right.
okay? But again, if we do it right, the price of gas shouldn't break you.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Gas is
But in terms
gas.
of emotions, I mean, it really yeah, it's really
Mm-hmm.
based. I mean, everything is what it is. Stocks are stocks. Stocks are volatile. You shouldn't invest in stocks if you feel like you don't ever want to lose. Somebody's gonna lose at some point in time. You're going to lose a little bit, but the goal is again not to go in the red. The goal is to be even, so then you can take advantage of when it goes into the black.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
see, that's it is. Um, but I just, I haven't had anybody, really get mad at me at investments or anything like that because again, we've been pretty successful, but also I'm upfront. Hey, I just want you to know this is what's going on. This is what's
Right.
happening. I have had some call me concerned because, they might have lost money here. Oh, I was looking at it and I thought I had this much, but it went down. Well, I mean, we just had an election. We just had this, we just had that. Let's look at the history. This is what happens in history. So this isn't anything weird or crazy or anything like that. This is normal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, house, my house isn't gaining the equity that I thought it would, but it gained equity.
Right. Right.
It gained equity. So what are we really upset about? We gain the equity. It's not going to gain, 20, 10, 100,000 a year every year. That's just the economy.
Right.
So it's just one of those things. But are you making money on this investment property? Because it's an investment property, you
Right.
know?
Right.
Or you got a little bit of equity. You wanted to sell this house and move. Well, why don't you pivot a little bit and instead of selling the house, rent it out to where the profit that you make from it, because you live in a good enough place, you did enough renovations, pays at least 70% of your mortgage.
Oh,
So
why not
then
a
you're
hundred?
saving money that way. It's different. It's different ways that you can talk to people and let them know they're in good shape, as long as they're in good shape. But if you're in bad shape, you should be telling you got to be honest and be like, yeah, life sucks. How
Mm-hmm.
do we fix it though? How do we
Right.
fix it? Notice I
Right.
said we, because you never leave
We.
anybody just out there by themselves. Man, you made a bad decision. This sucks to be you. I'm out. No.
Yeah. It's we. Rob asked a question. Have you heard or know about all data centers going up across the country, infrastructure and optics? Did you get that, Jameson?
This is about the data centers. Yeah, I saw the question about the data centers and the optics and stuff like that. Um, we will live in a very nice neighborhood that has a power line right behind it. We will live in a very nice neighborhood with a tracks going in the woods right behind it and have no issue.
Mm-hmm.
But we have problems with data centers because why? They're getting tax breaks
Mm-hmm.
for power and your electric bill is going up. Maybe your water bill goes up, something to that nature. That is not a financial issue. That is a city council. That is a county administration issue. Something you should go to those people and say, hey, why am I paying for them and you're giving them tax breaks to bring them here? Because they're not bringing real business. You know, um, maybe they're bringing more business because they need people to work, but data centers are notoriously minimally manned. They don't need them. And with AI coming, they'll be even less manned. Um, but take down the name of those country companies that are plastered on the side of it, invest.
Mm-hmm.
Right now in Northern Virginia, you got 70% of the world's internet going through it. And then this goes back to my point before. If you can't afford a home, buy land because those data centers are built on land. You don't have to
That's right.
sell the land, but you know what you can do? You can rent it to them on a 99-year lease. That's
Mhm.
let's go low. They're gonna make $1 million, right? Let's just
Mhm.
say they're gonna make $1 million, probably more. You can rent them that little plot of land that you have, that acre, when they need 25 acres, you can rent that out to them for $5,000-6,000 a month. That's your
Mhm.
mortgage, your household bills, and probably kids' activities, and still probably got enough to take the girlfriend out.
Yeah. And we
That
still
land,
have.
even even if
Mhm.
they need it for the parking lot, it's still land that they got to rent from you,
Mhm. And
or you can just sell it outright. It's a data center, sell it out.
and a lot of
Go ahead.
folks
Sorry.
don't. Yeah, a lot of folks don't realize, in Delaware we have Arden Croft and Arden, where they have houses there, and the people don't own the land. It's not a mobile home
No,
park or nothing. It's a regular thing where you have a 99-year lease on that land because they own that land and stuff, and you have that beautiful home that people want to love to be in. For they still pay transfer tax and property tax and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, what you're alluding to is that you're making money on on that land to keep it going and to keep it moving, and some folks don't see the value of that when they do it. I tell folks all the time, if you see some land, what I'm gonna do on it, I can't build on it. Trucks need to park, cars need to park, people need to put stuff there, put a fence up, so it's protected.
I'll be honest with you. I want a power company to approach me and tell me, "Hey, we want to put this tower on your land." A cell phone company. Okay, this is my price. It's too close to the
Right.
highway. One of my plots too close to the highway to build anything. Nobody wants it. There's never going to be an apartment complex because of the highway, everything like that. They're never going to have urban sprawl go all the way out there. No one's going to buy it to put a mobile home on it or anything like that. But you know what? It's good for a power line.
That's right.
It's good for a depot for the county to go ahead set up one of those salt, salt buildings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you can rent it out to from me. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we can make some good money there.
Just don't look at it from a traditional aspect, is what I'm saying. It's because it's
Right.
more than enough for all of us.
Right.
Okay,
And that's
and
good.
of my one one of my good friends in the industry, he says two things. I don't chase money, and I don't chase clients, and I don't chase women. Because my fiance would probably murder me. But the thing about it is, you don't have to chase. You have to understand it all. You
Right.
just have to understand what you have
Right.
and what opportunities you have. And all
Hmm.
this money is easy. It's easy to make money. Life life is not
Yeah.
complicated.
Right. 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 For it.
We make it complicated.
Yeah, for it and stuff and everything. Somebody asked the other question here, Jameson, um, for it, and said, "What's the biggest difference
You got for me,
between?"
brother.
Oh, can you hear me? Are you back with me? Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You're
Okay.
working out better.
Yeah. Yeah. For it. And somebody asked a question: What's the biggest difference between active and passive investing, and which do you prefer?
Well,
Did you get?
all active, uh, yeah, all active investing should eventually become passive investing. I say active, you should be active first so you can understand it, be boots on the ground, you can speak intelligence.
Hmm.
Okay, and you can all okay,
Hmm.
when to me personally, me personally,
Hmm.
I don't mind passive income as long as I understand what money is. But just not, I worry about people using the word passive income because this is how Kareem got in trouble with the IRS man because he didn't know. So you shouldn't necessarily be in a situation where you're completely passive and don't understand.
Right. Say that again. Yeah, I think we just got a bad connection right there. But as Jameson was saying, active is your first potential mark in the investing, and then it becomes passive forward over time as you start to see those investments start to build up for you and everything. For which is important, folks. I just said that my goal in the investment game is that you have to be active. You have to get in it. You can't stand and wait and hopefully something's going to happen
I'm
for
sorry, I
you.
didn't catch any of that.
Yeah. So I was just reiterating what you were meaning, what you were saying about you have to start out active, and as you go forth, that active income becomes your passive. For it, and we lost Jameson for a minute, but the key to it is you have to be in the game. You have to be able to start making a move somewhere to get your investing up front and have it moving. Don't sit back and wait for something to happen. As we talk about so many different methods of investing here, which per the what I prefer is I prefer active, because when I'm active, my passive income is starting to grow, but I'm not at a standstill. I'm still moving forward, but nothing is holding me back from reaching that goal to get to the next level. And that's what's important here. That when we start to invest, when we start to move forward and investing, we're always going to be active in it. We're always going to be looking. We're going to see what the market's streams are, how the market's moving, and everything. And I just want to reiterate too. You can't get nervous when the market starts reacting in a downward motion. That's where your momentum comes from, and the downward motion part of it to bring it back up when it's going for it. Hey, how you doing there too? Welcome for it, and getting it going. Somebody asked a question: what trends in investing right now that you're that think is completely overhyped? People trying to tell us just go on oil. There's so many other things we can do on oil because we're in a war. We're going through this time of where we're taking over or gaining that stuff. Welcome Jameson, back. But we have to keep in mind that we have to not go on people's trends, but we have to do our research and look at what investing is, see where we're going, see what's really out there. Is it a time to just invest in real estate, or is it time to do just oils and stocks, bonds, IPOs, options? You have to look at both of them because one don't supersede the other. they're both good to do if you can do them at the same time. But making wise decisions, you have to have the knowledge. You have to have the understanding of what you're doing. Because I can't go out there and tell you I'm going to go flip a house and I have no idea of what that value is in that area. Because guess what? I'm walking into something that I'm hoping instead of knowing what it should be, for it. And it's a formula to everything, folks. And I'm a bring Jameson back in here in a minute, but it's a formula to investing. And part of the formula to investing is having the knowledge of how that movement's going to happen. And Jameson, we just talking about somebody said, what's the trends in investing right now and why that you think is completely overhyped?
AI. AI is overhyped. AI is overhyped. AI is overhyped. I will say it if no one else will say it. It's a great tool. Use it for what it's there for, but AI is overhyped. Um,
Hmm.
right now, I really don't see a smoking gun, um, other than understanding where your money is and your vehicles that your money is in. It's nothing that I'm gonna say, hey, invest in this, and it's not like that guy who said, oh, invest in Netflix is going to be big, and lo and behold, all these people became millionaires or whatever like that. Nothing that I see on the horizon that really says that speaks that to me right now. But you can make money through your strategies and what vehicles your money is in. These are, not just your 401ks. I talk about 401ks a lot because a lot of people have those because we work our jobs. Even small business owners, you have SEPs, which is a 401k, all that type of stuff. Um, do you have the equivalent of a pension? Do you have that vehicle, an annuity? Do you have an IUL? If you're a
Hmm.
homeowner, you understand a HELOC. Do you understand the way to become your own bank? That's the question we need to start asking ourselves. How do we become our own bank? And what do I have in place to be my own bank? And how
Right.
do I start that bank? Yeah,
Hmm.
that's where I am.
Excuse me. We have another question. What insurance trends are you seeing in 2026 that people should be aware of?
Positive or negative?
Both.
Whole life is negative. Whole life will always be negative, in my opinion. There's versions of whole life, but we get in the weeds on that. We get in the weeds on that. Um, that can be beneficial, but we're just a lot of underserved communities are just now catching up with whole life, and what they hear is, "Oh, I get this policy and I can take this money out." And get with me, I'll explain that to you. Okay,
Hmm.
it's not as simple as that. Positive annuities. If we're talking about long game annuities, if we're talking about how do we become our own bank, IULs, um, setting up a LLC, setting up your own LLC can save you and generate a lot of money for you, a lot of money. And I understand not everybody's an entrepreneur. I understand that. But if you're trying to buy land or buy a rental property, or you're taking care of your cousin's house, you know, as a property manager, even though you don't charge them anything, that's a LLC. There's LLCs all over that you're
Hmm.
doing for free, but you could still create an LLC. But that's a financial vehicle that you could use and grow and make it into something. There's a few people in the medical field that I know that some of them work for a regular hospital, everything like that. And we've talked about LLCs and how they're beneficial to them, and that's important to understand that.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So that's those are the
And
trends that I see,
yeah, and
and
when is the right
I
time to
get so
review?
excited. There's so many opportunities that there's
Yeah, and when is the right time to review an insurance policy?
yeah, finance is like math. There's no Review, review an insurance policy.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, yeah. When is the right time to review an insurance policy?
Well, most carriers give you what they call a 7-day look policy provision, where when it's issued, you have 7 days to look at it, look over it, and you can actually give it back to them.
Mm. Hmm.
You should know what's in your insurance policy, how it works, everything like that. Now, with that policy, it doesn't mean that you can't replace it. You don't have to let it go into lapse, but you can replace it with another carrier that's more beneficial or aligned with your current goals and your long term goals. So, reviewing your insurance policy, I would say you should probably look at it once a year at least, but definitely take advantage of the 7-day look when it's initially issued when you first get it.
Right. For and those are important. And folks, I want y'all to reach out. You see Jameson's number going across the screen, 301-523-9127, or send him an email, Jameson at todayandtomorrow.com. Because what you want to do, you don't want to not know and get the education you need to build that financial portfolio that you have to and invest it. Everybody has to do it. As I heard in my time, it's not about me no more. It's about them kids. It's about my grandkids right now, setting them up and stabilizing their future as well. But it comes through us. It comes through us. It comes through education. It comes through development. It comes through learning and knowledge. And what we have to do, we have to make sure that we have all of that stuff. So, folks, as you see it going across, Jameson at todayandtomorrow.com, or give them a phone call, 301-523-9127. Jameson, man, I want to just thank you for taking the opportunity to come on the show, give us a shout out, and of understanding what we out here doing, educating the folks. And if you got some closing comments for us, and Robert just left a message here. Financial literacy. I wish
Yeah,
I took that up a lot earlier in my life, but it's never too late to give it a shot. That's right.
right. Well, I got three things, if you allow me, if you'll indulge
Yep.
me. One, get out of the mindset of closing. There's no such thing as closing the gap. I'm sorry, but in underserved communities, the gap is the gap. What we're doing is building foundations and building on our foundations. We don't compete with anybody. You only talk about the gap if you're trying to catch up with someone, and I'm not trying to catch up with anybody. Okay, the Thorntons, we do us. You know, um, our foundation is set. So now it's up to everyone, the next people, to build on that foundation until we find a degenerate in the one strand that's like Eris, Targaryen, and ruins everything. Uh, it happens. History states. Secondly, if you like, I want to thank you for definitely having me on here. That
Yeah.
that is amazing. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I hope this isn't a grand opening and grand closing. Hopefully, you
Nah,
have me back on. I would really love to do
absolutely.
and get into some more stuff. And the other thing is, there's some things that you can find me. My info is on there. It's 301-523-9127. Jameson at todayandtomorrow.com or todayandtomorrowfinancial.com, either one. And there's my fiance tells me that I should market myself more. I don't always do that, but look out for Charlotte Post.
Mhm.
Google them. An amazing newspaper. One of the few remaining African American publications in the country. Um, I've been dealing with them for a little bit, and they are doing a column with financial advice as well. We've already launched our first column in October of last year. I'm working on the next articles within it. So if you want to read more in the meantime without contacting me, or if you have other people that would benefit, tell them to log in and go on charlottepost.com, and you can see one of my articles that kind of talks about 401ks. And there'll be other topics, as well as if JB has me back, we can definitely get in a little bit more deeper and get in the weeds on some more finances, because this is what I love to do. Some people have the hub, I have finances.
Mhm.
Um, and I just thank everyone that tuned in, and you know, let's make some money, man. Let's build some wealth. Let's not
Abs-
make some money. Let's build some
yeah,
wealth. You know, somebody
and
my somebody said this to me that was very important, and I'll leave it at this: rich people spend money, wealthy people grow money. Be a wealthy
mm,
be a wealthy person.
mm. And that's important. So, folks, this ain't gonna be the last time for Jameson. I'm even gonna try to pull him in some of our nonprofit seminars where we talk about financial literacy, to where y'all can be able to understand what this investment is about, so he can have a longer in person conversation with some of the folks that's watching here locally, so they can understand what it is, how they build it. We try to extend it here, but we got a lot more to come, a lot to talk about, because this whole financial freedom, as I like to call it, moment that everybody needs to get into, all comes through knowledge and education. Once you get the knowledge and education, don't worry about the Trumps. Don't worry about the Tesla corporations. Don't worry about the Walmarts. Worry about how you build your family legacy to get you to the next step. And folks, until next week, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Creative Financing with JB. It's always a pleasure to have y'all, and we'll see you again next week.